Hi everyone, Becky here, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be sewing up the Wren Cardigan from Petite Stitchery, and this is one that I have made in the past, and this is just a really fun, comfy, cozy cardigan. And this one has the bishop sleeves, which I will be doing the standard sleeves in, but I will talk about that, and the construction is pretty much the same. This has inseam pockets, which I will be doing on this one as well, and I'll walk you through that. So let's grab your fabric and let's go ahead and get started. I am going to be cutting this out on my projector, and I am using, this is a reverse French terry, so that just means that the texture, the loops are on the outside of the fabric instead of the inside. Yeah, just this is a really lightweight. And then I am going to be using this rib knit for the cuffs and bands. So I'm going to go ahead and get started cutting these out. Once you have cut everything out, you should have, this is my back bodice. I have two opposite front bodice pieces. I have two opposite bottom front pieces, my back bottom piece, and then I have my sleeves, my cuffs, my two waistband pieces. I'm doing the inseam pocket, so I have two sets of opposites for my pockets. I have my bottom band and then also my neckband. I am not doing the hood, but if you were doing the hood, then you would just have your hood pieces. So the first thing we are going to do, we're going to set everything aside except our bodice pieces. We're going to take our back bodice and open it up here, and then I'm going to take my two front bodice pieces and we're going to line them up right sides together. The arm side piece we want to make sure is on the outside. We're just going to lay these on top here, line up our raw edges, and you can pin or clip those on, and I'm going to do both sides right now. And again, making sure your arm side is on the outside, lining up with your back arm side. Once you have those pinned on, we are just going to take this over and sew up each shoulder seam. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. You can now see I have my shoulder seam sewn up. So if you open it up, it would look, here's your arm side, and everything would line up with our seam on the inside. And what we're going to do next is we are going to open it up. We are going to attach our sleeves. So we are going to take our sleeves and we are going to, up at the shoulder, we're going to fold our sleeve in half and find our center point right here. So I'm just going to put a clip in the center point, and then I will bring it over to my bodice, and with right sides together, we're going to place that center of our sleeve onto the shoulder seam, and then you will just kind of ease the shoulder into the arm side, matching up the point of your shoulder and the point of your arm side. And when you sew, you'll just have to ease that sleeve in a little bit, and we'll do that all the way around. And we will do the same thing as well on the other side. And once you have, I'm not going to show you the other side just to save some time, but once you have that on, we're going to go over and we're going to sew both sleeves on. So this sleeve will be done exactly the same as this one. And I did forget to mention that this pattern is written for a 3/8 seam allowance, so just when you are sewing, make sure that you're using that correct seam allowance. So I'm going to go ahead and get those sleeves attached and be back. Once you have those sleeves sewn on, it's kind of hard to see, but you'll have your sleeve here and it should be sewn on. And what we're going to do, again, this is the same regardless if you're doing the bishop sleeve or the standard sleeve. I am doing just the basic sleeve, but this step is all going to be the same. We are going to fold our bodice right sides together with our sleeves. We're going to line up our seam here from our arm side, and that's going to be in the armpit, and line up our waist seams on the bodice and line up the edges of our sleeve. And this will be done on both sides as well, but again, I'm only going to show you the one side. So we're going to pin or clip all the way around, and then we're going to go over and sew that down, and we're going to do that on both sides. And while I'm doing this, I'm also going to prep my cuffs. So what we're going to do is, I'm just doing the basic cuff, I'm not doing the thumb hole cuff. So you're just going to take your cuff with your grain going up and down. You're going to fold with right sides together. We'll do both of those, and you're going to just stitch up this long edge all the way up, and again making sure that your grain is going up and down and along that fold. I'm going to go sew those up and I will be back. Once you have your sleeves sewn up, it is going to look like this, and this is actually going to be it for the body construction. If you were doing the crop version, you would just then add your waistband and your neckband, or if you had to add your hood, but you don't have to do anything else for the crop for your body of your fabric. But what we're going to do now is we are going to do our cuffs, and so this is what they look like sewn up, just this long rectangle here. And if you are doing the bishop sleeves, what you're going to do is you're going to go and put a gathering stitch, or you're going to gather however you want, but all the way around your sleeve, you are going to gather that to fit the size of your cuff. So if you have the bishop sleeve, it's going to be much wider, and you're going to gather it in to fit onto there before you attach your cuff. But if you are just doing your basic sleeve, or you already have your sleeve gathered, you're going to take your cuff, you're going to fold it. I like to line up my seams with wrong sides together and fold it out like so. And then I like to do it with my shirt or my item inside out. A lot of people will do it the other way around. They'll put their cuff on the outside, but I like to stick my cuff on the inside. So I have my raw edge of my cuff here. I'm going to insert that into my sleeve, lining up my seams. I'll put a clip in there. And then I am going to pull my cuff and find that halfway point and clip. And then I'm going to do the same thing, find the halfway point of my sleeve and line those up and clip. And then I'm just going to take this over, and I will slightly stretch my cuff as I sew evenly so that it fits in there, and then you'll just turn it out and your cuff will be done. So I'm going to go ahead and do this on both sleeves and be back. Once you have sewn those on, it's going to look like this. You can see I just went with my serger, just started at the top and stopped at the bottom of those pockets. What you're going to do once you have those, you're going to open up your pockets. Lay my back out. I'm going to take a front piece and match up the top, and we're just going to match up our pockets, the seams, match the raw edges of our pocket pieces around. Again, match up this seam here, and then down at the bottom. So we're just going to go over, you're going to start up at the top. So go over this a little bit if you started at the top like I did. So down around your pocket piece and all the way down, and you will do that on both sides. If you did patch pockets or you aren't doing pockets at all, you would just pin your raw edges together and just do a straight up and down, nice and quick. Once you have those sewn, it's going to look like this if you did the inseam pockets. If you did not, it will look like this. You can just open it up and you'll see we have some nice pockets in our inseam. Once we do that, we are going to now attach our skirt to our main bodice. So we're going to find our center point of our bottom, and we're just going to open that back up, and we are going to take our bodice piece now with what we attached the waistband to. We are going to take our waistband piece and find the middle of the waistband and put that with the middle of our bodice of our skirt. And just like we did with the front or with the top bodice, we're just going to line up those raw edges across, making sure that we get all 3 layers in there. And you're going to go from edge to edge, and the same thing, making sure that this fold is not touching the raw edge, and we have that little gap there. So we'll go all the way across, and then we will just sew that up, and you will have the main construction of this done. So I'm going to go ahead and finish pinning that and get that sewn up. Right, once you get that sewn on, it's going to look like this, and then you can see again how I talked about that folded edge there. We have a little hole here. What we're going to do next is we're going to do our hemband. So if you are doing the button tabs, you would sew that up right now, and then what you would do is you would come in here and you would put your raw edge here and sew it on, so that then when you get that band on, you would fold it up and your sewn edge would be up here. What we're going to do is we're going to take our hemband and we're going to fold it in half and find our center points, and then at those center points with wrong sides together, we're going to fold it in half and match those up, and then we're going to pin that center point there. Then we're going to come to our hem and find the back center point, and we're going to, I'm just going to make it easier. So then we're going to flip our hemband up. So with all of the raw edges together, you're going to pin or clip at that center point, and then we will come to the edges, and your band is going to be smaller than your hem. So don't worry that it's shorter, but you want to make sure your raw edges are lined up with the front seam here, or the front raw edge, like so. And then so you will gently stretch your band, and you want to evenly stretch it so that when you sew, you are going to have to stretch that slightly. So you just want to make sure you have that clipped on there nice and even, and do the same thing over here. You're going to fold it up like that, match up this edge here so it's lined up in the corner, and pin that. And again, you're going to have to stretch this slightly. You want it to be nice and even, and you will just pin that on and then sew it. So I'm going to go ahead and sew this up, and I am also going to prep the neckband while I am at it. So you would need to, if you're doing the hood, you would need to attach the hood and sew up the hood and then attach it to the neckline first. But I'm not doing that, so I'm just going to go to my neckband pieces, which this will be the same if you have the hood or not, but your pieces would just be longer if you have the hood. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my neckband pieces with right sides together, and on one of these short ends, it doesn't matter which one, I will pin those together and sew them up like so. And then once I have that sewn together, I'm going to take both of my short edges, again with right sides together. I'm going to fold them in half here and sew them up so that then when you open it up, it has a nice closed seam. So I'm going to do that on, sew this up and sew up both ends as well. Once you have that sewn on, it's going to look like this, and fold it over, and so it might bunch up a little bit just because you were stretching that band, so it is meant to do that. A nice steam and press will help that out a little bit as well. But now what we're going to do is we're going to take our neckband that we just sewed. So we have here, we sewed our edges, and what we're going to do is we're going to flip those out. You want to push out those corners, do that on both sides. And if you are wanting a little bit of a cleaner corner, you can do this on a regular sewing machine with a straight stitch, and you could clip that corner so that it would lay flat. But so what we're going to do is we have our center point marked nice and easily with this seam. So I'm just going to fold that up with right sides to, or round sides together, I'm sorry, and clip that. And then I'm going to come over to my cardigan, and I'm going to find the center point of my neck if I can. So if you have a hood, you would just find the center point of your hood, which is also easy because there should be a seam right there. But this is the same regardless if you have a hood or not, you just would have more neckband. I'm going to line up my neckbands with my center seam of my neckline. Then I'm going to do like I did with the waistband. You want to just make sure that you don't get this twisted. What I like to do with my bands when they are being attached like this, I like to take, I use just an Elmer's glue stick. You can use any washable glue, or you could use hem tape even if you wanted. But I like to actually, I come into my band and put a little bit of glue inside of that seam to keep it from shifting, because sometimes, you know, it'll shift like this, so that keeps the seam nice and flat there. And then I will take some glue, and actually I use kind of a lot. The same thing here, I guess, too. Put it on the inside, I forgot that, so that you have a nice flat seam and it doesn't shift when it is getting fed through those feed dogs. But I'm going to then line up those edges, and so that then when this gets sewn, these edges are nice and lined up, because a lot of times, especially when you have thicker fabric like this, the feed dogs will pull one fabric more than the other, and then it gives you like an overlap like that, and it just doesn't look very nice. So I do that on that side, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to put some glue inside of here, and this is just a washable glue stick, like I said, but it will just wash out when you wash it, so there's really no concern at all about your garment. Just like washable hem tape, it just washes right out. So that's why I love to use it, and I think it's a lot easier than hem tape or anything else. You just pop it open and swipe it on there. You don't have to worry about all the other steps. So again, I'm just going to make sure it's not twisted. I have this nice and glued down right there. So then I'm going to put my glue on, and these are really cheap, and you can get them anywhere. You don't have to like go to a craft store or anything. So I do like to typically let this dry a little bit so it doesn't gunk up my needles, and so that I know it is secure. So what I'm going to do now is just like we did with the waistband. So this is shorter than our cardigan. So we are going to, again, just stretch it slightly. So I'm going to just pull it here. And I kind of like to just give it a biggest stretch as I can to try and match up some points. Just usually put my hand down and find, so this was those points like with my thumb, and then that's just where I'll put my next pin. And then just keep moving down. Stretch like that. It's not an exact science, but it works for me. You also could measure and quarter and match up points on your garment, however you would like. But so then when you get to your waistband, we are going to line that up, and you are just going to sew across it so that when you sew it, again, like I said, we had that little pocket. You do not want to sew over this fold. You want to make sure that your stitching is going to be outside of that fold so that this fold is exposed. And so I'm going to finish clipping this, and then I will get it sewn on, and I will be back. Once you have your band on, you are basically done. We have, I'll show you this one more time. I have my little holes, and it's not in the instructions, but I will probably go ahead and do it. You can top stitch your bands down. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. It just makes it a little bit nicer, and I also will, when I top stitch it, I'll top stitch this down so that it'll tack that down. But you can see, minus the strings, how clean and lined up this edges from that glue stick. And I think you saw I can kind of pull it apart because there's some glue in there still, but when you wash it that first time, it'll come out. But our last step is the belt, and what the instructions have you do is they have you cut out a pattern piece and then fold it in half, sew it up, and turn it. And sometimes I like to do that, but other times, like this one, especially with this print, I just think it'll be fun, especially because it has this on it. It just gives it another little extra, and it's a lot easier. But I just cut a 1.5 inch strip of my fabric all the way across from selvage to selvage. So I'm just going to cut off my selvages just to take those off. And this will kind of depend too on the fabric you're using, but I like to just pull it, and it makes it roll up kind of into a rope. And so just kind of pull it all the way across, and it just makes it a little matching rope. And then I will just feed this through, and then I will tie off the ends, and that is the last. If doing it as the instructions, you can sew this up and flip it out, so it does give it a nicer finish, but that's definitely a personal preference. Or you could use some sort of string or twill tape or drawstring that you buy at the store, whatever you want. But I'm just going to finish this and we will be done. All right, we are done, and look how cute that this turned out. You can kind of see the bottom there, and I have my pockets, and I like to tie the waistband up here in kind of a loop and then let a tail hang down so it cinches the waistband a little bit. That just, I like how that looks, but that's totally personal preference. But I just thought I would show you what I like to do, and it turned out super cute. But I love the contrast of the cuffs and the bands. I think it just adds a little bit more to it. On this one, like the one I showed you at the beginning that I made before, I used all the same fabric, so you can totally do that too. But this kind of just adds a little bit more of a design element, but turned out super cute. And if you had your patch pockets, you could do those. But as I mentioned, that this pattern is relatively simple, and the most confusing part really is band, but once you get it figured out, it's really not that hard at all. So I hope that you give this pattern a try, and I hope that you love it as much as I do. And feel free to leave any questions down in the comments. I will link this pattern in the description. Again, it's the Wren from Petite Stitchery. I will also link my Instagram, which is Bex. So if you make this, make sure you tag me because I'd love to see your creations. And also, if you found this video helpful, make sure you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for any future videos. Bye!